What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Tomatoito Boxing Show. And hey, the rematch is here. Both fighters have made weight. A fight that we've been wanting and asking for these two fighters to run it back since 2022. It's happening. Both fighters made weight. Both fighters are on hand. Both fighters are ready to go and just cannot stand one another. Josh Taylor, Jack Catterall is less than a day away from us. A fight that's taking place out at the First Direct Arena in Leeds, out in the UK. The controversial decision surrounding the first fight, where the undisputed champion took on Jack Catterall, who was awaiting and who was in line to face Jose Ramirez. El Gato, Jack Catterall, was in line to face Jose Ramirez when Josh Taylor dethroned then unified champ Jose Ramirez, lifted the titles from him with that stoppage victory over Jose Ramirez, and crowned himself as the undisputed champion of the 140-pound division. Jose Ramirez not having any more titles, Jack Catterall, rather than waiting for Jose Ramirez, was now in line to face Josh Taylor, which was Taylor's very next fight. He crowned himself as undisputed champ in May of 21, took the rest of the year off, and by February of 22, these two would meet against one another. Remember, Josh Taylor, after that victory, becoming undisputed, was trying to move up to 147 and making plans to move up to 147 to fight Terrence Crawford. A little side note, remember that when Teofimo Lopez beat Vasily Lomachenko, that WBC, the mess that the WBC created with the diamond franchise status that is non-transferable, therefore Teofimo's not really the undisputed champion. He was short one title, and then Devin Haney gets elevated to, remember they would call Devin Haney the paper champ or the email champ because he ended up getting a version of the WBC title and then elevated to full champion, which basically kept Teofimo from having been announced as undisputed, even though they sold it and broadcasted it and marketed that fight between Lomachenko and him as the undisputed. Well, Josh Taylor, the reason I'm mentioning this is because Josh Taylor, after he became undisputed and reached that feat, he's the one that ended up nicknaming Teofimo as the disputed undisputed. Teofimo would go on to finally get into the ring after a long layoff and a lot of contractual disputes and disagreements, even with a promotional company out in Triller and all that, when they were trying to set up that big Miami showdown between Kambosos and Teofimo. Top Rank stepped in, saved the show. George Kambosos, Teofimo Lopez happened, and Kambosos lifted the titles from Teofimo Lopez. Disputed, undisputed, no more. Kambosos would become undisputed. I apologize. He would become unified and would put all his titles on the line against the WBC champ, recognized WBC champion Devin Haney. Devin Haney would defeat Kambosos. And again on the rematch, crowning himself undisputed, and would go on, well, we know what's going on with Devin Haney. The reason I mention all this is because Josh Taylor entered the commentary and his knocking of the status of Teofimo Lopez as a champion. Well, after the Jack Catterall fight, the rematch would never get signed. From February of 22, after the Jack Catterall fight, Josh Taylor again would take off the entire year of 22 and not return until June of 23, when he would face the person that he had criticized for so long, Teofimo Lopez, who is now campaigning at 140 pounds. He faces Teofimo Lopez at the Madison Square Garden. They fight for the remaining title that Josh Taylor had after he relinquished a few He relinquished one because he didn't want to face the mandatory. He relinquished the others because he didn't want to pay the sanctioning fees. He kept the WBO title, put it on the line against Teofimo Lopez, in a fight where Josh Taylor was a heavy favorite and was supposed to give a lesson to Teofimo Lopez. He ends up getting picked apart by Teofimo Lopez in a 12-round fight where Teofimo Lopez lifts the WBO title from him. A fight where Josh Taylor was actually in the lead, in my opinion, in the opening rounds. And Teofimo just took over. And ends up picking apart and hurting Josh Taylor the rest of the way, making Josh Taylor look old, look lethargic, until the arrival of Teofimo Lopez at the 140-pound division was on full notice. That's the reason I mentioned Teofimo Lopez and Josh Taylor. Well, the rematch with Jack Catterall should have happened. Late 22 didn't happen, should have happened. All 23 didn't happen. Now Josh Taylor didn't have any titles. That's June of last year. He was again inactive the rest of 2023. And here we are in May of 24. And now the rematch is going to happen against Jack Catterall. A fight where many felt that Jack Catterall won, that he had done enough. It was very evident that Jack Catterall was getting the best of Josh Taylor on that night. Just quick. He continuously kept Josh Taylor off rhythm, continued to pepper him, continued to punch through Josh Taylor's guard, through his defense. Josh Taylor would punch. Catterall was countering, hitting him from different angles. It just seemed like he was just too much for Josh Taylor on that night. Taylor, towards the end of the fight, in the last few rounds, starts bringing the action to Jack Catterall. This is not to say that it was completely one-sided. Josh Taylor was doing his work, but very little. Jack Catterall drops Josh Taylor in the 8th round. Ben Davis and the corner of Josh Taylor, the urgency kicks in, and they start telling him, like, you better step up. You better step on the gas and take the fight to Catterall. He did. He found some success. And by the time that the fight ended, both fighters get a point deducted from them. Josh Taylor gets dropped in the 8th round. Catterall gets a point deducted in the 10th round for holding. Taylor gets a point deducted in the 11th round for punching after the bell on his way to the corner. And the point that he had lost from when he got dropped earlier in the fight. All signs were pointing to Jack Catterall becoming the undisputed champion. All signs pointed to Jack Catterall having been announced the winner on that night. Instead, we got 113-112 from Howard Foster, awarding the decision to Jack Catterall. And we got Ian John Lewis, 114-111 for Josh Taylor, and Victor Laughlin, 113-112 for Josh Taylor, in which Taylor retained all his titles and remained the undisputed champ at 140 pounds. Unified and undisputed. The people immediately protested. The people immediately started booing. The crowd for Josh Taylor, of course, cheering. Josh Taylor happy. To this day, Taylor, and in the lead up to this rematch, Taylor's like, you know you didn't win. You had a chance to step on the gas. You let the fight get away from you. And now it's all over for you. I'll get you on Saturday. He's no longer having weight issues, no longer having lingering injuries. The fight got canceled from earlier this year. I believe the fight was going to take place in February, and it didn't. It got delayed because Josh Taylor had issues with his eyes, swelling with the eye procedure that he had, and so his eyes were flaring, I believe, which was going to cause He wasn't going to get sanctioned. He wasn't going to get cleared to fight, and he didn't, and the fight got delayed. And then it got delayed again, and here we are, all the way to May 25th, where these two have made weight and will finally step into the ring against one another. For Josh Taylor, the story is, you caught me on a bad day. Everybody has bad performances. I wasn't at my best. You missed out. Now, watch out. I'm coming for you. Josh Taylor knows what Jack Catterall brings to the ring. We don't expect a different fight from Catterall. We just expect more of the same. Punches and bunches, different angles, counter-punching beautifully, standing toe-to-toe with Josh Taylor, and punching off rhythm to where he doesn't allow Josh Taylor to counter or even initiate an attack. For Josh Taylor, he needs to completely erase that first fight, find his rhythm early, and execute. He can't sit around and wait and try to get going later in the fight, like in the first fight, because Jack Catterall will not stop coming. From opening bell to closing bell, Catterall took the action to Taylor. Taylor cannot start slow. Jack Catterall needs to do exactly the same thing. It was perfectly executed. He mixed up his attack beautifully, kept Josh Taylor guessing, kept Josh Taylor hesitant. And the only critique to Jack Catterall is that when he dropped Josh Taylor, that killer instinct wasn't there for Catterall. He tried, couldn't deliver. Instead, it ends up going to the scorecards. When this situation, if it presents itself, this Saturday night, where he has Josh Taylor in trouble, he needs to go in for the kill, and he needs to make sure that he puts a stop to this fight and not let it get to the scorecards again. Josh Taylor just needs to get rid of whatever happened that first time and just do his fight. Show up like he did against Ivan Baranchyk. Show up like he did against Prograis. Even though people feel that he lost the fight with Prograis, or some will dispute that he lost that fight with Prograis, I didn't. I thought Josh Taylor beat Regis Prograis in what was a really tightly contested, very technical fight. He needs to show up like he did with Jose Ramirez. This is it. No title on the line. But more than bragging rights, this is... He needs to set his foot as the former undisputed champ and let Catterall know there's levels to this game. You caught me on an off day and couldn't pull off the victory. That's it. For Catterall, he's there. The upside is there for him. His career skyrocketing, and with the victory over Taylor, he's going to be knocking on the door of Teofimo, of Subriel, of Pitbull, who's the newest crown champion at 140, of Devin Haney. Haney looks like he's in talks against Sandor Martin. That's gonna be a purse bid that's been ordered for mid-June. Sandor Martin and Devin Haney. Pitbull is gonna be in action against Rayo Valenzuela, who's moving up from 135, putting his newly acquired title on the line already that he lifted from Rolly Romero. Subriel Matias fighting arguably the most skilled and technical fighter coming out of Australia these days in Liam Perro. And Teofimo Lopez, as far as I know, doesn't have a fight announced yet, but looks like he's going to be, or he does have a fight announced already. I think he's going to be fighting out in Miami in a top-ranked card and against Steve Claggett, I think. So all champions, all titles are going to be fully active. All champions are active. And Jack Catterall just needs a solid victory again to line himself up against one of these champions. He's good. He's very good. But he needs to execute that killer instinct when the opportunity presents itself, and he failed to do so. And Josh Taylor is completely correct about that. What version of Josh Taylor are we going to see? We don't know. Let's hope that we see vintage Josh Taylor, because even though they consider him the older of the fighters and that he's already on the back end of his career, Josh Taylor's record sits at 19-1. The lone defeat to Teofimo Lopez. Jack Catterall's coming into this fight with a 28-1 record. That one defeat to Josh Taylor, decision loss. The way that Jack Catterall fought Josh Taylor made me think and question the record, because he has 13 knockouts to his credit out of the 28 victories. The way that he fought Josh Taylor, you would think that he would have a higher knockout ratio because of how efficient, how accurate he was that night. Josh Taylor, on the other hand, has 13 knockouts of his 19 victories. The same amount of knockouts that Jack Catterall has with 9 less fights. Josh Taylor's power will need to be in full effect, and he needs to get going early in order to find victory tomorrow. It's going to be very interesting, and I can't wait. I can't wait for this one. So, how do you guys see it? I'm really interested to hear from you guys. Reach out to me on X. I'll be watching this live from the comfort of my home. I'm curious to hear from you guys to see how you guys have it. Is this going to be another just run through of Catterall where he picks up from round 13? Or is it going to be a completely different fight? Or are we going to see vintage Josh Taylor pick the opponent apart? Now that he knows what Jack Catterall brings to the table, can he pick him apart? Very, very, very interesting showdown. Somebody else that's making their return is going to be Ellis Zorro. If you remember that name, he's going to be the co-main event or the chief support to this main event. If you remember Ellis Zorro, he was in action at the Day of Reckoning in December against none other than Jai Opetaia, who just regained his IBF title last Saturday with his decision victory over former foe Maurice Brady's. Ellis Zorro was knocked out in a nasty fashion. Jai Opetaia just destroyed him. And the curiosity behind this return of Ellis Zorro is there's an IBO title on the line, but the curiosity is to see how he returns, because the upside was there for Ellis Zorro. And he ran into a monster like Jai Opetaia, who just knocked him out and left him mouth open, eyes staring into the sky. Nasty, nasty knockout, his head landing on the bottom rope. And the curiosity here is how Ellis Zorro will look. Because fighters are often not the same after a knockout like that. The chin is not as resilient. Durability goes out the window. They're hesitant. Their styles change often. He's fighting Siobhan Clark, who's coming into this fight with an 8-0 record. Siobhan Clark has 6 knockouts to his credit out of his 8 victories. And I apologize, it's not the IBO title on the line, but it's the Triple BFC title, the British Cruiserweight title that's on the line for this one. the curiosity there is to see how Elizoro looks, because he's going in against another heavy puncher. Not a destroyer like Jai Opetaia, but Siobhan Clark obviously has knockouts to his favor, with 6 out of his 8 victories coming by way of the fast lane. So if Clark lands some power, that's how I want to see how Elizoro is going to react, how he's going to recover, how he's going to continue pushing forward, or if his chin's not going to respond and cave in. But the main event's the one stealing the show. The main event is the one that we want to see. Gary Cully will be in action. Patty Donovan will be in action on the undercard. But the one that we're really, really there to see, let's not kid ourselves, it's the rematch between Josh Taylor and Jack Catterall. I hope you guys tune in. I can't wait to hear from you guys to see how you guys are calling it. And well, you have my my analysis. That's how I see the victory for each of the fighters. You guys could reach out to me and let me know if I'm missing something or if I'm seeing it completely wrong. And I can't wait to hear from you guys. I can't wait to watch this fight. I'm so excited. So I'll catch you guys all on the next episode. Take care of yourselves. Have a great night. And listen, thank you for the continued support. The show continues to grow. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Good night.